Hi everybody, welcome to pregnancyexercise.co.nz. Pregnancy Exercise here on Facebook and live on our YouTube and social media media pages, social media channels. How are you all doing? Today I'm going to be talking and focusing on postnatal pelvic health. Okay, so your pelvic floors postnatal. Not only what to expect postpartum, what to do to hopefully get your pelvic floor muscles back to optimal function, and I will explain that so that you guys can do the exercise you want, you can move around as you want, you can lift, play with your kids, and you're literally not worrying about your insides falling out. Okay, so we can do certain steps during pregnancy and in the postnatal stage. And today we're definitely going to be focusing on postnatal. And postnatal, that is any time from immediately post-birth to the 5 and 10 years after that. We're postnatal forever, but remember we do go into then different phases and into perimenopause and menopause, okay, which also has quite significant effects on your pelvic floor muscles. Okay, so if you want to, pop on the chat, let me know the type of birth you had, the exercises you're doing, any questions, please let me know, comment here, or if you want to send me a private message, you are welcome to. We are going to try and go through it a lot today. I know some of you might be nursing, running around looking after toddlers, so just listening with one ear, but it will be recorded, so you'll be able to play it later. I will repost it to Facebook and then again on to YouTube and finally the blog. Okay, so your pelvic floor muscles. Often during pregnancy, the pelvic floor muscles remain and feel the same. In fact, quite a high number of women don't notice too much difference with the pelvic floor muscles and pelvic floor muscle function. And pre a vaginal birth, often you don't even have to think about contracting. They're automatically happening if you cough or laugh. You know, if you go out for a run across the road, we don't need to be thinking about our pelvic floor muscles and exhaling because it's automatic. It's what we've done. It's how your kids are now. You watch your daughters, you know, they don't need to be thinking about the pelvic floor muscles when they're on the trampoline. So can we get to that stage post-birth? Okay, well, it's all very different. We can in a lot of circumstances, but in some circumstances we can't, and you're always going to have to think about that lift. Okay, and even though you're doing that, okay, that lift, that's good. Okay, that is good function. I have to do it. I had damage to my pelvic floor muscles after the first birth. So I can relate to everybody who leaks, is frustrated, who has to put things in place as we manage this now for the rest of our lives, basically. But it doesn't mean we have to accept it and can't do anything about it. We can make changes. Most of us can return to really good function postnatal. Those of us who can't, we can work with what we've got, and we can make those muscle fibers so they act better and the function. We've got pessaries, what we can now use for high impact sports. And we also have learned so much more about the pelvic floors, prolapse, etc. over the past 4 years. But we want function. That's what we want. And then we've got different levels of the exercise that a lot of mums want to return to postnatal. Okay, so your pelvic floor muscles are all affected very, very differently relating to the type of births that we have. Now, your pelvic structure, okay, so inside of your pelvic bowl would be lots and lots of muscle fibers and attachments of your pelvic floor muscles. So they kind of knit together like this, okay, and form that ball shape to support everything and to stop everything from falling out. So with the pregnancy, the weight of the baby stretches them a little bit for that, just like your diastasis, it needs to happen, okay, so it stretches a little bit, okay, the ligaments grow in that, but postnatal, with a little bit of exercise, they should come back up to pretty much normal, all right, but sometimes damage occurs and that too much strain and pressure can occur in the birthing process. Now, the factors that can increase pelvic floor muscle issues post-birth are the size of your baby, so babies that are over 4 kilos, how long you push for, that age is also a factor, and why age is a factor as well is they say over 34, and that's because of general elasticity. We all know over time that the cellular repair is not as quick, and we start to lose that elasticity in our skin and ligaments. It's exactly the same with the pelvic floor muscles, so age can be a factor, how long you pushed for, and the medical interventions that are used. We know that forceps can increase the risk of damage to your pelvic floor muscles. If you have pushed for longer than 2 hours, can also increase that risk, a big baby, and your age factor. Okay, so if you have a couple of those, and then you want to follow certain steps postnatal. Okay, so how do we go with push baby out? Okay, recovering, what's normal, what's not, what do we need to be aware of? Okay, well, often after a vaginal delivery, things are going to feel a little bit different. Okay, I remember speaking to a young mum not so long ago, and she was under the impression that she would feel nothing different, and to feel anything slightly different was a massive concern for her, and it made her quite anxious. Okay, so we don't want to be thinking that they should be back to normal following a vaginal delivery. Okay, they are going to feel a little bit different. Okay, so a little bit loose. So what you want to do is when you think about it postpartum, think about trying to contract your pelvic floor muscles. Now they'll say to you, at any point, go and try and stop your pee. Well, that's probably going to be quite hard after giving birth, because you might not be able to feel anything just yet. You may have had an epidural, the drugs are wearing off, your brain's just trying to process what's happened. So don't try and put yourself under that sort of certain amount of pressure by testing your pelvic floor muscles too soon. What you can do is just think if you can activate them, okay? And if you can consciously feel that you're activating them, that's a really good sign. And if you can do that, within, I tend to say to mums, within the first 24 hours after giving birth. Now, if you've had an episiotomy, it's going to be a little bit different, because lots and lots of stitches cause a lot of increased blood flow, scar tissue, so the brain can't really focus on down there. So give yourself, 6 to 10 days, let the swelling settle, and then you can start to think about your pelvic floor muscles. Okay, so within this first 12-week period, some of the signs that you want to watch for are increasing loss of control. So let's say 2 or 3 days postnatal, you could feel your pelvic floor muscles fine, you just had to, you coughed, laughed, didn't notice anything, but a few weeks later, you start to notice leaking, okay? Also, if you start to feel any pelvic pain, any constant pressure of your pelvic floor muscles, the feeling that you need to sit down all the time, anything feeling like there's something there, these are all signs and symptoms that everything is not quite 100%. And at that point, you do need to get yourself checked by a women's health physiotherapist, okay? So any of those signs and symptoms, signs that you always want to go to the toilet, signs that when you've been to the toilet, you still want to go again, all right? This is real initial. And even though I've just said the first 12 weeks, if you feel any of those symptoms in the first 12 months to 2 years, you also need to talk to somebody, because we are at an increased risk of prolapse, okay, from anywhere around that 6-month plus mark. And it will depend also on the core strength exercises that you're doing and the exercise you do following that, because we want to follow this nice core strength basics, functional exercise, building up intensity back into training. Perfect ideal situation. We don't want to jump ahead too quick, otherwise again we can increase that chance of pelvic floor issues, and prolapse may increase, and especially when babies and children are getting a lot heavier. So that's what you want to look out for. So we should see, hopefully you see a decrease in your symptoms and you feel your pelvic floor muscles getting better. So what exercises can you do? What we want to do is basic lifts, and then we can start to think about your pelvic floor posture, okay? And then we can go on to different functional exercises. And I like to get mums, I'll show you an exercise in a minute, of doing different breathing patterns through our squats. And also as well, you know, we have in the Birth to Fit Mum program specific pelvic floor exercises at the start. For those of you who know you've got, you know, your pelvic functions not quite right, to start on that, then onto the main program. And then we go into getting into your high intensity running program, so your pelvic floor muscles can build up towards that. Okay, so your basic pelvic floor muscle lifts. If any of you guys have got a ball at home, it's great for your pelvic floor muscles because it gives your brain feedback and you can actually feel them lifting up, as opposed to trying to do it standing or lying on your back. It's a really good idea to start off, if you can, with a ball. And I'm going to show you some. If you haven't got a ball, don't worry. What you can do is sit on the edge of your couch and your seat. So sit on the armbands and place your legs over. And if you've got a towel, so this is just a hand towel, okay? So all you need to do, you can do this now if you want to. You can do this on the floor as well, sitting down. So you just place that underneath, right in the middle, okay? Hopefully it's not too hard, okay? It wants to be quite soft. And wait until you do this, until you're not sore with your stitches. This is going to give you some feedback, and it's like basically being on a scan machine, having your ultrasound done. And if any of you guys go to a physiotherapist, what they tend to do is put it on the screen so you can see that you're activating correctly. If you do your pelvic floor exercises on the ball or with a towel, you can feel it. You can feel it happening, which is what you want. All right. So with your breath, you take a nice deep breath in and relax, and you should feel here your pelvic floor muscles nice and relaxed, and nothing else should be tense. And then as you exhale, that's your lift and your cue to scoop up and lift the pelvic floor muscles. Now you shouldn't feel your glutes tensing, and you shouldn't feel any tension in your upper body as you do this. And you want to feel the lift happening pretty much from back to front, okay? So you're feeling that lift all the way. It's like a little scoop. I always say to clients, think of it as picking up a raisin with your fanny, but you may also, if you can't feel that contraction at the front, focus a little bit more on the back. So stop a fart, lift up a raisin, pick up a raisin, okay? That should feel the scoop, and you should be feeling your pelvic floors contracting and relaxing. So contracting and relaxing. Now, often mums ask me, okay, so how many times a day should I do these exercises? All right, so if you've given birth or whatever stage you're at postnatal, and you know your pelvic floor function needs to improve, I would suggest you do tens of the exercises pre-meals. So you're doing 3 to 4 reps, 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps a day. And if you can do them seated, great. If you're standing, just think, again, as you are seated, think about your posture, because we don't want to be swayed back. Okay, you can do them with baby or carrying a toddler, and you just stay in here in this perfect position. And this position, as opposed to being tucked under, is the best position for your pelvic floor muscles to activate. Your brain will connect with them better in this, what we call optimal position. Okay, now we talk about, I just want to give you a little thing to think about as well. So we talk about, if somebody mentions a weak pelvic floor, we often think about leaking issues. And if someone says they've got a strong pelvic floor, we tend to think of no issues. All right, women with a super strong pelvic floor, we call it hypertonic pelvic floor, can have just the amount of issues with women with more of a relaxed pelvic floor, okay, into what we used to call a weak pelvic floor. All right, so there's a difference, too strong's not good and weak's not good neither. We need to find a balance, which is why we call it functional. Okay, so either side of this nice sort of happy medium, what we have in the middle, is not great. Those mums, if you have any pelvic pain, quite deep and quite low, that can often be a symptom of hypertonic pelvic floor muscles. And you guys definitely, we need to know, so you need to be working with a physiotherapist, but we work on the relax and your transverse abdominals. So really different from focusing on contracting, because those with hypertonic pelvic floor muscles, they're too tight and tense, they're sitting, if you imagine, too high up. So it can often cause painful sex. So we need those muscles to be able to move with our pelvis and with our movement, okay? So we need to have that nice bounce back up and bounce back down. So those of us who've got a little bit too relaxed, they stay here a little bit saggy. And those of us that are quite tight are staying up here, all right? We need this sort of happy medium in the middle. All right, so that's a little bit why I always say pelvic floor function as opposed to weakness and strength. Okay, I know it can be a little bit confusing. All right, an exercise I want you to do is a squat, and a pelvic floor squat, and what I teach in Birth to Fit Mum and our programs is a narrow squat. And why we do that is because it's easier to feel your pelvic floor muscles. A wider squat starts to make them feel a little bit not that easy to connect with, and we start to take that's into the next levels, as is impact training for your pelvic floor muscles. Pelvic floor muscles are like any other muscle in your body. We need to train them for the load. Okay, and that's where a lot of trainers or different programs might get stuck, is that they keep you at the basic level. They don't actually start to train your pelvic floor muscles in impact training, so you can start to get used to it. Same with coughing. Coughing and sneezing put so much strain on your pelvic floor muscles, all right? I will come back to that in a minute. Let's do this squat, okay? Everybody up you get. Narrow squat, okay? So we call it a ski squat, the pelvic floor squat. Now what you want to do is you're not going to go down as deep. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn you around because I've got a white wall here and it's a lot easier to see me. Okay, so pelvic floor squat. Feet are facing forward. All right, now this is the movement, here and up. you must make sure you're not tilting your pelvis, because what I said, again, tilting your pelvis underneath you, brain can't connect. So you're just going to concentrate on sticking your bottom out a little bit more at the top. All right, guys. So this is the movement. You're sticking your bottom out the whole time to there and come up. Pelvic floor squat. Now, you're breathing. I want you to change it. All right, so the first 10 reps, okay, you're going to pick up your pelvic floor and exhale throughout the entire squat. So I'm going to breathe in now, breathe in. Starting to exhale, pick up my pelvic floor, and I'm keeping and concentrating on having my pelvic floor on throughout the squat. Breathe in here. So it looks like this, doing it properly. Breathe in. Exhale, pick up. Breathe in, pick up. Breathe in, relax, pick up. So that's how it's looking. So I'm working the pelvic floor muscles throughout the exhale and lower. The next one, what I teach is when we get a little bit better, is breathing in on the way down and picking up, exhaling on the way up. Now, if your pelvic floor function is not that great, that's going to be the harder one for you, okay? So stick with option A first and then progress to B. Those of you whose pelvic floor muscle function is starting to improve, do first set, exhale throughout. Second set, exhale on the way up. Third round, do whatever you want to do. Hey guys, let me know as well if you've got any questions so far on what we've gone through, okay? Just pop them on. Okay, and let's also, you know, just try and, it was such a taboo subject, but we really need to talk about our fannies, you know, and, you know, some of you guys in the US will laugh at that because, you know, I know your fanny's your fanny pack, but where I came from, you know, your fanny is your vagina, all right, and we need to talk about this. And do you know what, I spoke to just my postnatal group before, it was really good, and saying about some of the dads in fear of having a second child because of what they saw, you know, their partners go through. And I said, you know, we all talk about things. We talk about our bits regularly, or we should be doing, and I do in the groups. And guys don't really talk about that and what they've seen. But this group did. The guys all chat about it, the mum's pelvic floors, and it's so good. So we just need to really try and think about that. So definitely start, you know, with your coffee groups, check how things are feeling, and let's just, you know, not have this such a taboo subject, and let's bring it to the front of anti and postnatal groups so women feel happy talking about it. And we really do need to be very confident in talking about our pelvic health because it's important for the rest of our lives, you know, and having good pelvic floor health means great function, you know, not only in the bedroom, great sex, running around with your kids, not worrying about leaking, laughing with your friends. So it's actually really important, just as important as your transverse abdominals. Okay, now, I forgot what I was going to come back with, and I've got it wrote down, coughs and colds. All right, okay, so you may find that your pelvic floor muscles will improve and decrease at certain times of the month. And some of you may not be menstruating at the moment, but you will once you start to get back your regular cycles, you'll find that the function often drops a little bit. So don't get frustrated by that. Around about the time you ovulate, and also definitely just before your period is due. So just be aware of that. So different factors can affect your pelvic floor function, and that is one of them. The other one is too much sugar. We know that sugar can play a big part in our pelvic floor health. The other one that I want to also talk about is stimulants, and that's caffeine. So caffeine sort of overstimulates the pelvic floor muscles. So just by cutting your coffee out before you go for a run could mean you stay dry during your run. So just try little things like that can actually help with your pelvic floor function. So it's not stopping it, it's just changing the time that you have it. Also, other things that can increase is not drinking enough water, drinking too much water, going to the toilet too much, holding on for too long. We need to, get this balance. The other week, we were talking about core confidence, okay, and we spoke a lot about things in moderation. Everything in moderation. We need that balance with everything. Too much is not good, too little is not good. It's just the same. So we just need to try and get that balance right. So the other thing is where I don't want you to get disheartened, because I know we're all going into flu season, but because of COVID, we're all looking after ourselves a little bit more. So hopefully we shouldn't see too much of a cold and flu season because we're being more hygienic. But if you do have coughs and colds for a couple of weeks, it may take your pelvic floor muscle function back a month. All right, so a few tips. If you start to cough, okay, definitely think of that when you're coughing, you're exhaling and lifting up. Don't breath hold, because that will cause you to leak. What I like to do before, obviously you're not standing in the middle of the street crossing your legs, is actually press onto something, onto a wall, because that can just help you initiate a little bit more intensity and a stronger lift of your pelvic floor muscles as you're coughing. Try, if you can, if you're coughing a lot at night, not to be in this flexed back position. So again, stick your bum out and cough and try and lift up. And if you can do that during the time of sickness, your pelvic floor muscles won't be under as much strain. And I often say to mums, if you're sick and run down, and you want to try and keep that good pelvic floor muscle function, just do one set of your leg slides a day, or your hip bridges, or those squats. We can normally do that if we're sick. If you're really sick, flu, stay in bed, don't even worry about it, okay? But just to keep some of that good pelvic floor muscle function up, it's a good idea to keep that balance. I think that's pretty much everything what I wanted to chat to you guys about today. The only other thing we've not mentioned is going really into, the important role we have with our women's health physiotherapists, which is massive. And what I would say to you is, for those of you who want to get into high intensity impact exercise, when and if you can, see a pelvic health physiotherapist when you can see them, because the internal and the information they can give you of exactly where your pelvic floor muscles are is second to none. And myself and our programs work so much better when you've had that internal. If there's nothing wrong with your pelvic floor muscles, you're going through all the stages, you don't necessarily need to do that. But if they're available to you, I would say all women should go and get checked to see what their function's like. Because even though we can do everything we can do on feel, we think we're doing all the exercises right, unless you get that internal feedback and up on a screen, we're not exactly going to know. When I talked about those warning signs before, if you are suffering from any of those, you need to see a women's health physiotherapist straight away. And a lot of mums will come to me, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. Okay, I can't see anybody for 3 to 4 weeks. So we just go through some simple steps, just following the first program of your Birth to Fit Mum program, activating, your pelvic floor and core muscles as you're lifting baby up, because that's often forgot about when you're doing your housework also, and that will keep you nice and safe before you go and see your specialist. So hopefully, and then also, there is a small percentage of us who, just constantly leak. And we can go so far, but when we're pushing it, maybe doing big jumps in CrossFit, double unders, we just can't control it. That's where pessaries come in really, really well. Now, they're prescribed a lot in Australia, which is great. Here in New Zealand, we don't seem to see many physiotherapists because we can't get hold of them. I think that's the issue. And now with COVID, I'm not actually sure what the process is, but we can get them in New Zealand. You sort of just need to ask for it and probably push for them. But pessaries are great for those of you who are going back to do lots of high impact support. If your pelvic floor muscles need a little bit of extra support, that's what they're there for. So please, any questions or comments, please come back to this video as well and watch it. Please share with your friends and family, let everybody know. So remember, in our Birth to Fit Mum program, we include, as well as the main program for diastasis recti, functional exercise, etc., we have pelvic floor muscle programs specifics to start either before, to work alongside the program, to get your pelvic floor muscles back up so that you can go back to things like F45, CrossFit and running, etc. It's all included in that Birth to Fit Mum program. Okay, so if you want to as well, you can get $20 off Birth to Fit Mum with the coupon code pre-sale for watching this video, so thank you. So you can go and do that on pregnancyexercise.co.nz. Your friends are also welcome to use the voucher. All right, so every week now on Facebook, we're going to do events, and I'm also putting together a workout timetable for you guys, which is going to be really cool. So thanks everybody for joining. Please make sure you like and comment so lots of people get out, can see our videos. It does take a lot of likes now to get more engagement. And yeah, thanks everybody. Visit the website pregnancyexercise.co.nz. Any questions you had about postnatal pelvic health, please comment or email me on the website. Thanks everybody. Bye.